put everything into getting the big things. When you're just starting out, it's invaluable to work with people that are good at what they do. Try to keep reaching higher. Don't just stay at the level you are because someone is handing you things you don't want to do. What they should do is learn AI, make a really good website, have at least 3 case studies. Then it's like I was saying before, start networking and don't be shy because it's a really tough industry and you are going to have to talk about your work a lot.
Well, Shari, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
So the whole idea of the podcast is that I'm trying to look at people's lives, how they've got to do the thing that they are doing now, and also trying to get any advice out of them.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, you see a lot of podcasts out there, right? And they are really cool and very interesting. And to me, I like them because you've got big people, successful people per se, millionaires, billionaires, business experts who come in and they give a lot of advice on how they've got there and what it is that they're doing that works.
Yeah.
Now, that's really good, but you've got your own unique perspective, and that's also valuable. And to be honest, more relatable to the average person than if someone really successful said, hey, I'm doing this and it works. So my only ask is that we keep it really practical.
Sure.
And for the people watching, I would like for you to give them specific, really good points, practical points that they could take and try.
Okay, I can try that.
Nice, thank you. So let's go into the first question.
Okay.
And let's dive in on who is Shari?
Well, I am a product designer or UX designer, and I live in Bath in the UK. I moved here from the US about 10 years ago, but I love Bath. It's a beautiful place to live, and it's actually got a great tech scene because it's so close to Bristol. Bristol has a really big digital and great design scene, and Bath also has that as well, and I've really enjoyed living here, not just because it's beautiful, but also because of just how great the opportunities have been. So, yeah.
10 years ago, you moved from the United States to the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
So, can you give me a quick rundown of the jobs you've had from the beginning to where you are now?
Yep. So, I started interning. That I would consider my internships my first job. So I kind of figured out at a young age that I wanted to do graphic design. And so at uni, I studied graphic design and I applied for all the internships. And so I really wanted to get real world experience. I think sometimes in uni, I don't know, I think over here, people have to have placements, or they can have placements and it's a lot easier, but it's not as easy in the US. So I applied for all the internships I could get. And one of them was at a corporation called State Farm, which is ranked 39, I think, in the Fortune 500 list. And it happened to be in my town. And I knew some people that worked there. And so I got an internship there, a summer internship. It was pretty competitive getting the internship because they have a lot of applicants. It's well paid. It's for the whole summer, and it's a very creative internship. And but I practiced with an art director that I knew, and she sat down with me and helped me practice kind of reviewing my portfolio with her and what I would say about each thing. And so when I went into the interview, it was a room full of, I think, 8 art directors and 2 managers, and I was, 21 years old, but I presented my portfolio and I got the internship, which was great. So I worked there full time for the whole summer, and then at the end of the summer I got hired by State Farm, and so I did 8 years in State Farm. It's a really big corporation. I worked in creative services, and I did a lot of varied projects. It was all, at the beginning, mostly internal marketing. There's so much communications happen within a company that large, and there's a lot that needs to be designed for it. So I was doing a lot of that. And then towards the end, I was doing more of the bigger campaigns, which would be like shown in Times Square or shown at a baseball game. That would be for the MLB. And I had the opportunity to, art direct photo shoots. One of the videos I directed, I came up with the idea of doing a stop motion animation video, and I got to direct it and do the whole storyboard for it, and then sit in the room as we moved these tiny pieces for, days on end. But that one won an award, so that was really exciting. And towards the end of that time there is when I was starting to really want to get into digital. But that was during a time where they wanted you to code if you were designing for the web. And I tried my best, but I'm not really a coder. And I knew that there was more opportunities to learn web design outside of that atmosphere, which was really tightly controlled. And I think if I'd stayed, I would have gotten a digital job there. I think they were breaking up the department, more putting the creative services into marketing. And then I think a lot of my friends that liked digital design that were in creative services ended up moving to the digital wing. But I ended up moving over the pond and marrying my now husband and jumped right into digital from there. So I guess my background is it's very creative. I grew up loving to draw and art, but I went into UX as I moved to the UK by working at an e-commerce agency, which was really great. But my first job, I would say, would just be at State Farm, but it was internships. And I think it's really great for young people to do their best to get work, try to do real work and not just your own projects, or you can get kind of stuck in what's trending and you can have fun doing side projects, but the way to really grow is to have a real brief that you're trying to solve and try to solve real problems. And I learned a lot more on those internships. I had several, but the big one was at State Farm.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, because with the side projects, you can only do so much. Yeah. You can maybe prove you know a bit about the thing you're exploring.
Yeah.
But then once you do the internship, you've got a real world experience. You work in a team, you're actually trying to solve something that's real. Look at myself, I did a placement with the company I'm working for right now. And looking at everyone who hasn't done a placement, I'm in a much better position. Firstly, because I've got the real world experience. Secondly, because I've got the interview experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Going through so many interviews, right? It's so crazy how much develops your way of answering questions and thinking about a question.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, it's given me a sense of reality. Mm-hmm. Because you leave university and you start looking for a job, or at least that's what I've observed some of my friends do, and they expect that they will get hired immediately.
Yeah.
You can't get hired immediately if you've got absolutely nothing to show for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And also perform quite average on the interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, real world experience. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So you worked 8 years at State Farm.
Yeah, I did.
Ranked 39 on Fortune 500.
Yes.
That's quite cool.
Yeah.
And after that, you came to the United Kingdom through your agency.
No, I came to marry my husband. So I came on a marriage visa. So yeah. So we met in the US, and he was kind of traveling around, and we really hit it off and started dating long distance, which was not fun. But we would try to see each other about every 3 months. I would come visit him and then he'd visit me. And then eventually I moved to Bath because he was owning a business, and it would have been a lot more complicated for him to move towards me because he'd have to sell his business and fire everyone. And, it's a lot more complex. So I moved to the UK because like I say, I was kind of ready for a change in my career. Wanting to focus more on the digital, and I think it was just really good timing that we fell in love, and then I came here 2 years back and forth, and then once I got here, it was because he owned a digital agency, and I promise that's not why I married him, but it just so happened that I could start doing some work for him almost right away, because he could see that I was good at design, and I just needed opportunity to kind of learn on the job again. So even though I hadn't done a lot of web design yet, I started working for his agency part-time, and that was back when people were still using Photoshop, but Sketch was just coming out, and which is a tool that is like the now modern Figma, where you build things with components and have everything connected. So instead of every page being tediously done in Photoshop, you can have everything updated immediately. And so basically I was really excited about just like learning new tools, learning new skills, and doing it again like on the job, and being trusted with that was great. But yeah,
looking at the 8 years at the company in the United States, ranked 39 on Fortune 500. How was the interview process like? Like, walk me through what you had to do, because you said there were 8 other people in the room, directors and whatnot. So what's the interview process for such a big company?
Well, this was their internship program,
okay.
So it was slightly different. I remember having to fill out a really detailed application, and they were only accepting from universities, so they weren't accepting people just off the street that liked graphic design. They specifically wanted young students, that they really wanted someone with a graphic design degree, like in that program or something similar. And it helped that it was local for me, because they knew I would come, because they don't want to offer it to someone that doesn't come. But really, that one interview was the big moment. I remember filling in the application, and then I think it was just that one big interview, to be honest. But I remember going into the big corporate office, and then being taken to the department, and then just kind of entering this conference room. And I didn't know that it was going to be all those people, but so then they talked to me, and they all asked me questions for about an hour and a half, which was quite a long time. But I thought I was doing well because they were smiling, so that made me like encouraged to keep talking. And so I think what happens at the end, though, is after the internship's over, a lot of people might be interested in having a job there, but you can't get hired by the company unless there's an opening. So I was just really lucky that they had an opening, and that I was already living in Bloomington, Illinois, and that I applied for that role through my manager and got the role. So
okay.
that was it.
When you were sat down being interviewed for about an hour and a half, from what you remember, what were the types of questions that they were asking you?
Oh man. That's a good question, but it was a long time ago. Let me think. I know the most important thing was walking through my work. I think they asked me questions about myself, but because I didn't have much of a career history, I think I had a job in the marketing department for the university. That was an internship as well. So I did talk about the work I did there, but that was probably the only job experience I had to talk about. I think what happens, I think, if you're a designer in UX or just graphic design or web design, is you're usually being asked CV questions and, kind of go through your background. But the important part is your work. So I think other jobs, they might ask you a lot of questions because they really want to get to know you. But when you're a designer, your work is who you are almost. So the best way to do a portfolio review, and what later I did become a lecturer at that university just part-time. And so what I trained the students to do as well is have it set up as a case study. So every single project that you present, talk about what the problem was, why you did the design the way you did, what kind of thing it solves. Now, this is fake work, so it's a lot harder when you're a student to do this, but think about if it's student work, I would say show your thinking, show your sketches, show all the ideas that you came up with. So if you did a logo, show all the variations of the logo that you can to show that you thought about everything. And even in that instance, even if it's not a problem from the client, it's a problem you ran into. Like, well, I really wanted to incorporate this shape into the letter of the logo, but I couldn't get it to fit right. And so you can see the iterations. And so I'd say for students and for anyone interviewing that have to walk through their work, just make sure that you kind of frame the problem and then show your solution and really talk about it really as clearly as you can. So by the end of your work presentation, usually they might have questions like, why would you want to work here? What is it about this company that makes you feel excited? Is there, tell me about a time where you messed up. What did you do? So I think those are the kinds of questions they ask, but I would say the portfolio review is the biggest thing for sure.
What do you say to people who think, what do you say to someone who just applies for a company, is not actually excited about the company, and gets asked that question, why do you want to come work for us? How should they approach this question?
They probably shouldn't answer the question or be interviewing for the company if they don't know anything about the company, to be honest. So I think it's really hard out there for people looking for jobs. So you might have people applying for lots of jobs that they don't know anything about the companies. They read a job post and they just think, oh, I'm just going to apply for this job. But from a hirer's perspective, that they want to think that you know something about the company, that you want to work there. So if you're asked that question and you don't know the answer because you didn't do your research, you can fake it. You can say the bits that you know about the company. You can say, well, I see that you do this and I want to do this, and it seems like our values align. You can say things like that, but I don't think that they'll believe you if you're not genuine. So I would say try to apply for companies that you want to be in, or at least understand enough about that you can answer that question.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think there's loads of people out there who just apply for a company just because the salary looks good.
Yeah.
But realistically, you're only going to get through if you've got some sort of an alignment with the company.
Yeah.
Still focusing a bit on the company itself. So you were with them for 8 years.
Yeah.
Because there was a job opening and you applied through a manager. Mm-hmm. Through those 8 years, you've seen loads of people. Okay, it's a big company, right? You've seen loads of people come and go, and you've seen probably loads of people develop in those roles. Is there anything you remember seeing that made the person really grow?
I think the things that helped me grow, I should say, and one of my best friends started work there around the same time as me, and watching her grow, because we started when we were young and then stayed for a long time, was trying to keep up, as in not putting yourself down, like thinking that, well, I don't have the art director title, so I shouldn't present my work. So just so you're aware, like if you work at a small agency, you might not, as a junior designer, be given opportunities to do much. You might just be handed grunt work all the time. But if you're in a bigger corporation, what they let us do was, if there was a brief, then everyone on the team has a chance to solve the brief if you have time. So you have the luxury of time, and that just means that if you're like me and my friend, we put everything into getting the big things. Like if it's going to be a big billboard campaign that is really creative, we would work really hard and work with the copywriters and really try to come up with a great idea. So I'd say, to answer your question, like try to keep reaching higher. Don't just stay at the level you are because someone is handing you things you don't want to do. So always communicate and say, like, I want to do what you're doing. You know, can you give me a chance to do that? If they're not automatically giving you that chance. And then I was lucky that I was already given that chance. So then I had to put my all into every opportunity, so that I could, you know, just keep getting the next better project, I guess. There's just hundreds of projects coming through that department. And eventually I was respected and given chance to, you know, art direct internal magazine that was going around to 200,000 employees. And like the video, the stop motion video, I remember that was, we all had to present an idea of what could this be. We knew this video needed to play in an agent, like in agent offices all over the world, country, sorry. We needed to each present an idea of what this could be. So I, you know, took a good amount of time storyboarding my idea, writing scripts, and just saying, like, I think this is what we should do. And then my idea was chosen by the client. So, you know, I think it's, you might not get given that opportunity if you're working at a small agency, but yeah, like I say, just try to keep reaching a bit higher.
So you now work for a small agency.
I did after that, yeah.
After that, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been freelancing and been a contractor for the last 6 years. So my career is like backwards. A lot of people end in corporate and start by freelancing, but I've been doing the opposite. But I love contracting, so I don't like think there's anything wrong with contracting until, I mean, I might do it forever, but yeah, so, but I did, after that job, I moved to the UK. I worked at a small agency, and then I lectured at Bath College, and I lectured in the media department, like, talked about design with the kids, which was, I think, the year 1 and the year 2s, and they're like 16, 17-year-olds at Bath College. And then I worked at a larger agency that was, their main office was in Cambridge, but they had a Bristol office. And I worked for Omo Bono for almost 3 years. And that's where I got some really great opportunities. Going from like internal in-house design to then agency is like a bit of a shock, because you're going from these slow moving, you know, projects that we all have a chance to work on to an agency. Every minute of your time is being accounted for, because they, you know, the clients are only paying the agency by the day rate or the hour rate. And then any work given to me as an employee there has to be accounted for. And so basically you're, you know, the time wise it's a lot shorter, but it's also, you get to do lots of different projects and you get to build your portfolio because you get lots of different brands in there. And so that was really fun. I really enjoyed working there. And from there, I started freelancing. So they closed the Bristol office, and we weren't quite ready to move to London. We didn't want to move to London, so I stayed here and just started contracting. And contracting is even more varied. You know, I get hired sometimes 2-3 months at a time, and sometimes 2 years. I did a contract for 2 years for a company in London that was a startup, and that was really fun. So I've learned a lot, I would say. I learned a lot working corporate, and it was a great foundation creatively. But like I keep saying, like, doing the work is really what's helped me grow, because like working at the e-commerce agency and then working at this other big agency, I've just learned really how to grow a business in a way, because you're able to take a brief and solve it over and over and over again very quickly, rather than sometimes the corporate projects would last months or years even. So it was a lot slower.
That kind of preempts my next question, which was going to be, you've got freelance, you've got agency, you've got big corporate.
Yeah.
My question was going to be, you said you started backwards.
Yeah.
What would you advise someone who's just starting out in the UX design world? how should they start? Should they go to corporate? Should they go to small agency, or should they freelance?
Well, I know I said it was backwards, but I think when you're just starting out, it's invaluable to work with people that are good at what they do. So I'm not sure I would recommend that when you're first starting to freelance completely siloed. I think if you can have your first paid jobs be with someone you can learn from, because you can do it on your own and you will learn a lot because you'll fail a lot. So I think that's the tricky bit. If you're okay with that, then go for it. I would say some people work better solo. They just really enjoy solving the problems by themselves, not being told what to do. They like the freedom of feeling like they can control what kind of projects they get, which I get that, and I now can do that. But I think one thing that I really learned in corporate and in agency world is like I saw the process and I know that it works because it was almost the same process in both places, which is, having a really good brief. It's so important to have a clear brief and to really understand what you're doing. Being able to break down that brief and almost line by line think about what needs to be done. And then creating a timeline or a plan, or if you're a freelancer, a budget, and then, executing that as closely as you can and being able to communicate. And I think when you're young, you don't necessarily communicate very well. Some people do, but I think learning and listening to other people, how they pitch ideas, how they talk to clients, how they present the work when they've made a change they know the client doesn't like or might not like. How do they navigate that? I definitely learned that on the job. I think if I'd done freelancing first, I think it would have been a lot harder. And when you're a freelancer and they don't like you, they just don't use you, but they don't tell you why. But if you work somewhere and you're not doing that well, usually if you have a good manager, they'll coach you and they'll help you kind of fill in those gaps and learn how to be better.
So that's a comparison between freelancing and corporate. Would you say the same applies between freelancing and agency?
Yeah, I'd say so. Agency, you get a brief, but you don't necessarily get to talk to the client unless you're leading the project. So you might not get to really go into detail. So what you end up having to do in agency is you do the very best you can and then fill in the gaps. So you take what they give you, and if you have questions, you have to document very carefully what your questions are. And then I think the best thing to do in anywhere you work is really try to understand your client. So just ask a million questions and try to get in their head what create a mood board for them, help them figure out how they want it to look, how they want it to work, have them show you examples. If you can't get that from a brief, then it's not a very good brief, and it'd be better to have a call. If you can't have a call, then you actually have to guess, and then it's better to probably show them options. So I would say, like, in agency, it is different. The process is the same, but you just might have a lot more gaps unless you can, talk to the client. And as I did get promoted at the agency, and once I was a senior, I was able to ask all the questions because I was in the meetings. But looking back, I think it would have been nice. It's a time thing though. Like, you can't have a junior attend every meeting because then they won't have time to do their work. But it's really valuable for them to sit in meetings as well so that they can hear the conversations and how they should do things.
Yeah, because you can learn how to pitch, how to talk with clients, how to communicate well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things if you do participate in those high sort of stakes meetings.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me about, because you've come here to the United Kingdom and you work in the United States.
Yeah.
In terms of opportunities in the design UX world, would you say there are more opportunities in the US than in the United Kingdom? The other way around?
I don't know, because I was from So America is really big. And I think if you don't live in a hub of where it's all happening, like right now, I'd say it's like Austin. It was San Francisco, but Austin's huge now. If you don't live in Chicago or New York or some of these bigger places, then you're applying for remote jobs. And every remote job that gets listed, they probably get 300 or 400 applicants. So I think it really depends on where you live in the US, and like what your portfolio looks like. And over here, it is similar. I'm finding that I look at job postings and like everyone's wanting you back in the office right now, like at least 2 or 3 days a week. So if hybrid is the way the world's going, people are going to start moving to places like London again. Like people have kind of spread out around COVID. I think you've heard of a lot of people that moved out of London during COVID or not long after, sorry. And but with hybrid working, I think people are going to have to live closer to the places they work, and that's going to be a change. So it depends. There's a lot of opportunities in the UK. Some of them maybe don't pay as high, but I think that's a general statement. I actually don't know what they're paying in the US right now because I don't live there. It's been about 10 years. But I do think I've seen product design jobs in the US that pay almost, $100,000, which seems like crazy money for a designer. But I also can understand it because product design is a specialist field. You have to understand your user, have user experience. So I didn't learn UX until I was doing web design, and then I realized quickly that I can make things look pretty, but I need to make it work, and I need to make the users want to use it. And that's where UX comes in. You really have to do research on your users, learn how to think how they're thinking, and then and that skill came later. But those opportunities, again, I think are in more of the bigger cities. So it's tough to say.
What I want to know now is, what are those opportunities looking like? Because opportunity is a big word. So for someone who has just graduated university, what sort of opportunities are out there that they can see and feel or look for?
Well, it's getting harder right now because for young people and for juniors, I think AI is changing things. People are wanting to hire more senior level, and there's just not as many junior job postings. So I think what they should do is learn AI, which if they're young, they probably will learn it quite easily. And just maybe start trying to, if they can't get hired, then try to take on freelance work, because then they'll get on the job experience. So I would say don't give up applying. Do your best to have as nice a portfolio as you can. Practice, interviewing. If you get an interview, do a mock interview. There are AI tools that will do a mock interview with you. So use that. And just don't be too disheartened if you're rejected, because I think every job that's available right now is getting 200-300 applicants, especially if it's remote. I think more in-person ones, not so much. And I would also say don't apply for only the big schnazzy companies that you think, oh, this will look great in my CV, but also talk to people locally. Like, have a look at the list of local agencies and go to networking events and introduce yourself to people that work there. And if they get to know you and then you see they have a posting, then they'll hire someone they know a lot quicker than they'll hire someone they've never met. So, but it is tough out there, I think. There's some pretty amazing AI tools coming out that are taking away some of the grunt work and might mean that, the jobs that juniors have been doing is not going away, but changing. So I'd say like learn those tools and keep being a good designer though. And try to have the best case studies as you can in your portfolio.
What does a good opportunity look like in the current world, also take into the account AI?
For a junior, well, honestly, like if it depends, if you're a UX designer, I would apply for any local agency that has a junior position in that field. So even if it's not the nicest looking of companies, so you might look at them and think, oh, I'm not sure I want to work there. Get to know them, maybe, like really read their website. Don't cut them out, even if it wouldn't be the top of your list, because right now when you're junior, you just need experience. And if you know people, use people you know to talk to. So, but as far as like what a good opportunity looks like, everything could be a good opportunity. Having a freelance job from your uncle could be a good opportunity if it creates a great case study. Doing work as a freelancer, studios hire you to work in the office for a couple weeks at a time sometimes. Maybe put yourself out there to studios and say like, I am available and can help with these things. And that can be a really good opportunity because again, you'll get on the job experience. And if you can get into a big place, like go for it. Like I said earlier on that you should always reach higher, and I do think you should reach high, but you also have to look at yourself and give yourself an honest assessment of like what kind of experience can I offer? If you don't have any experience, don't be afraid to get your experience somewhere. But I would say if you know it's not a good fit, don't stay a long time. And I know that gets a bad rep, people jumping around jobs. But I got lucky that my first job was such a great long-term job. Some people's first job, they know from the beginning they're not going to stay that long, but sometimes they stay because it's really scary to leave. I would say, give yourself an out, kind of have an end in mind and start looking a year in advance. Give yourself maybe a year to think about the next place to go. And that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting experience somewhere and then growing at the next place and keep trying to gain experience.
That's really insightful. For someone who's a senior, you've been in the industry for a while. You've worked for a big corporate in America. Yeah. You've worked in a small agency. You're freelancing now.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone who's senior? What should they look out for? What should they take into account? What sort of opportunities should they focus on?
For seniors, I mean, this is me talking to myself, I guess. I'm currently in the place of asking myself, what are my goals? I'm 40 now, so I am thinking long term, not just about building my portfolio anymore, but should I be going somewhere where I can have leadership experience? So I kind of am at a pathway right now where I need to decide, do I want to be employed again and try to be more growing as a leader, which I haven't done much of because around the time that the agency closed its Bristol office is when I started having my kids, and it just meant that it would be really hard for me to work full time and try to, kind of climb the corporate ladder while my kids are really little. People do it, but I really wanted to focus on my kids. So I've really loved contracting because it's given me so many opportunities to like dip in and learn from all these other places and still grow in my skills. But as far as opportunities, I'm trying to decide like, do I want to be employed again and become a leader, or do I want to keep doing the work? I love doing the work. I love actually solving the problems myself. I love designing myself. I don't know that I want to direct other people. So is that what I want, or do I want to lead people? And I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's just a personal decision. because I could contract forever and maybe make myself a limited company and hire someone else and maybe try to take on and become my own little agency. Like that might be where I end up going if I continue down the road I'm on right now. But I might have a hard look at myself and say, I'm not sure I want to do that. I liked being employed. I might go that direction. So for seniors, the opportunities, there's lots of opportunities for seniors because I think most places are hiring seniors. They're looking for people that can jump into client meetings and present right away. They're looking for people that are good at what they do and don't need to be trained up. They don't have the time to spend kind of coaching people necessarily. As startups, they want to be able to just hit the ground running. So they want to know that you can jump in, do the work, and ship the work. So, for a senior right now, there's kind of like, so what do you want to do? But I'd say, there's good opportunities in lots of different places. It kind of depends on who you are.
Let me ask you a question that might help you. When your kids grow up,
Yeah.
and they come to you for advice, what sort of history or experience do you want to pass along?
I guess my hope for my kids is that they find something they really enjoy doing. And if they're lucky enough to make money doing it, then just try it, even if it's a really tough industry. So I don't think I would ever tell my kid like, oh, don't get into acting or don't get into XYZ because you don't, it's really tough out there or most people don't make money from it. But having seen working in creative services, which is at State Farm, I saw people that were, directing videos, editing video, like doing jobs that a lot of people, never thought they could do it at a 9-to-5, but they were at a 9-to-5, and you can do anything really. Like there is a job out there for you if you really want to do something niche. So don't become an engineer, even if what you really want to be is, a designer of, I don't know, chairs. You might think, oh, engineering is more practical, but if you really love designing chairs, to go and do product design and actual products design. So I'd say to my kids, just keep on. But the things that you want all your kids to do are still be responsible with their money and with their time and with, their schoolwork or anything. Be a person of integrity. Make sure that you are honest and are kind and communicate how you feel. I think I grew up in a family that talked about their feelings a lot. And I think that's really good because even in business, like a lot of decisions come down to feelings. And so like, not that you should just be, throwing up your feelings in a business meeting, but it's more like being able to understand people makes you understand business as well. So I think it's really important that I hope my kids will try to do something they want to do. And honestly, I was really lucky. I knew I wanted to do graphic design when I was 16. And a lot of people enter uni and have no clue what they want to do. And I would say like, that's not the end of the world. Like there's no clear path in life. Everyone's can start doing something and end up doing something else, and that's okay too. I really respect adults that go back and study something else later in life, that they didn't major in just because they got older and knew themselves better and thought, actually, I want to learn this now, and they retrain. So I don't care what my kids do for a living. I just hope that they enjoy it and are respectful to the people in their life and the people they work with.
At the beginning of your answer, you said doing something they love. It seems like you really love freelancing right now.
Yeah, I do. I really love I think I really love people, and when you freelance, you get to know new people all the time. So I like jumping in and just getting my hands dirty. And usually if a studio is hiring a freelancer, it's because they need work done like now, and they need it done because they're really, really busy. And so a lot of times you're kind of just thrown in the deep end. But at this stage in my career, I enjoy that. Like, I kind of like the thrill of, okay, here you go, you're off, like, build this thing. And every time I start a project at somewhere else, I learn from them. I learn how they run things, how they've built their Figma files, how they've do their processes. And so I can take a lot away from that. And if it's a place that is, really small, and I hope I can come in and help offer any expertise I might have. I never like to jump in and pretend I know what they should be doing, because they've already been running their business. So I think sometimes if they wanted my perspective, I would offer it. But most of the time I want to just become a part of their team as quickly as I can. And that's fun. It's fun to, I wouldn't say jump around, but just learn from different places. But then there's also the aspect that the thing I miss about being employed is just being on a team, seeing the same faces, talking to the same people. You really can make great friends in the work world. And I made some really great friends in Bristol, and I made some great friends at State Farm that I still talk to. And so, I'm alone here. I sit at my desk and I do my work, and I do get to know the people I work with, but once the contract is over, it's not likely that I'll see them again unless they're a friend of mine, So that part I do miss being on a team. So, but yeah, again, there's no right or wrong. I don't know. You kind of have to weigh the options for any career path. You kind of have to decide what's worth giving up and what's worth having. What matters most.
Say you're 16, 18, 19 now. Mm-hmm. You've graduated from university in UX. Mm-hmm. What do you do in today's world?
It's tough. I'd say, like I said before, make a really good website and either vibe code it and have Cursor build it for you, have AI do it, or learn Webflow and build it yourself, or have your friend build it. If you don't like building, but have your own website. If you have to get a Wix website, do Wix, it's okay. Like, do whatever you can to have a website. I say that because you can have a PDF, but PDFs tend to be clunky. You can have a Figma file that is your portfolio, but that just doesn't look quite as good as having your own portfolio. So have a portfolio site. If you have at least 3 case studies, just have 3. You don't need 12. You don't need flashy, crazy designs. You just need tell the story of those 3 case studies. 2 can be made up. And even if 3 are made up, that's okay. But maybe use ChatGPT to give you a fake project. And try to solve the problem and then put it in a case study. And then I'd say once your website is up, then it's like I was saying before, start networking, start applying for as many jobs as you can. And don't go on LinkedIn and just hit easy apply, but try to find out where they are, who they are, send a direct message to the hiring manager. If you know someone that works there, tell them that you're applying, because they'll take the application and say, oh, so-and-so knows you. And it's a lot more likely you'll get an intro call if someone knows you. It's still a matter of who you know these days. If a lot of times you won't get your foot in the door unless you know someone in the business. So just keep meeting people. And ask your teachers, if you're still at university and you have professors or teachers, get their advice. They do probably give advice in the classroom, but maybe say, can you look at my website and give me feedback? Or, and even if you've already graduated, just get in touch. If they don't have time, say, do you know someone that could look at my website? And don't be shy. because it's a really tough industry and you are going to have to talk about your work a lot. I think if you're a developer, you're always building things and the proof is in the code and what you build. But as a designer, you have to learn to pitch your work. If you don't learn how to pitch your work, then you're just gonna fall behind, because people need to hear that you know what you're doing, and the client will trust you if they think they know what you're doing, and no one's gonna hire you if they don't think that you can talk about the work. So yeah, I would say practice pitching your work out loud as well as on your case studies.
Shari, thank you for that. Final question I have for you.
Okay.
What is your success story?
I would say I'm still figuring that out, to be honest. Success for me would be being in this industry till I retire, because it's a tough industry to stay in, especially as I get older. I think I was saying earlier that senior designers kind of have an advantage right now, but as you hit a certain age as a creative, you start to it becomes a bit harder, actually. I think people want the younger, trendier designers. So I would say if I can retire in the industry and continue doing nice work, I will feel successful. And I don't need to make, millions of pounds. I don't need to build a business necessarily, because I've always liked working to solve a client brief. I've never necessarily wanted to grow a business, but I would say success would just be, and this sounds maybe really small, but to kind of just continue to make it in the industry and to keep creating things that I'm proud of. That's the big one, I guess. I want to keep getting better at what I do. I don't want to ever stop growing, and not just learning the tools, but becoming a better designer and becoming a better problem solver as a UX person. So that means I might continue wanting to go to courses about UX, or I might want to really, stretch myself and do some really creative work that I didn't think I could do. Maybe even in branding or something, which I haven't dipped in very much, but that is very creative, coming up with the fonts and the colors and, so yeah, I would say just continuing to retire in this industry and creating work I love.
That's amazing. And as you were talking, I was thinking, where would you be in 5, 10, 20 years? And I think based on your answer, my prediction might be completely wrong. I don't think you said earlier you might, who knows, you might start your own little agency and hire someone. Yeah. I don't think you'll do that. I think you'll either continue freelancing for a while and maybe keep doing that. But I think most likely, you'll end up working for a company, grow in that leadership role as well, because you said you don't want to stop growing. Yeah. And I think through that, you'll have more opportunities to do meaningful work that will get more creative. That's my prediction. Who knows?
You never know. I hope I would enjoy that prediction. If that's how things panned out, I would enjoy that, definitely.
Shari, thank you for this. Before we wrap up, do you have any questions for me?
What has been the thing you've learned doing the podcast that has changed you the most?
That has changed me the most? That's a really interesting question, and I've had a number of podcasts now, and I'm thinking back to 2 recent ones that I've done. One of them is with someone who works in the real estate industry. He's really young, 27, 28. He started his own business 14 months ago, and I think in our conversation the other day, he really emphasized consistency, learn from the things that are not working. Yeah. And an equal point was made by someone very similar who again, is she's 24 if I'm not mistaken, just like me. Her name is Kyra, and she runs, you might have seen an Instagram account called Your Bath Guide.
Yeah, yeah. I think I listened to your episode on that one. It was good. I really
Thank
liked
you.
her.
And I think in our conversation, in that conversation, what stood out for me was she talked about choosing your hard. Mm-hmm. Working 9 to 5 is hard. Doing your own thing is hard. Which one are you going to do? And I think making a decision and being consistent with it and keep learning from the mistakes, that's been a really massive takeaway.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because I do listen to podcasts and I do listen to other people who are massively successful in terms of money.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everyone's successful in terms of the knowledge they have. And they say the same things, but they're not as relatable as the conversation I had with Kyra or I had with Jack, who's doing the real estate business, or you for that matter.
Yeah.
So having that relatability has more impact on me than other stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's in the relationship, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for giving me the time.
Yeah.
I asked you a question. I asked you a question before we sat down a while ago. If you're vegetarian, or if you have any like sort of allergies, and you said no. So thank you for that. That's amazing. Because I have a nice chocolate bar I give to everyone. It's my favorite chocolate bar. It's dark chocolate. I discovered it back in Romania when I was 16, 17. I give it to everyone. And the only way I could describe it is this. You know when you were a kid and you had a chocolate bar and you were thinking to yourself, I like it. I could use a bit more chocolate in it though.
Yeah.
I feel like this chocolate bar has got a lot of chocolate and you'll be 100% satisfied.
Oh, that's great.
So I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. I love chocolate, so I will enjoy that. Thank you.
Nice one. Shari, thank you.
Thank you.